You get teleported to the day you were born with all the memories from your past life. But you're now an infant. What do you do? Come out the womb not crying, eyes fully opened, with the most serious face I can make as a baby. Then say this human form is limiting. I would cry like a baby. So would I, knowing what is to come. Probably have some form of internal crisis. Knowing me, forget it all. That'd be sad. In a flowers for all journey sort of way. The first words out of my mouth won't be mama or dada. There'll be one ring to rule them all. One ring to find them. One ring to bring them all. And in the darkness bind them. Just grab your mom's ring and say my precious. Start talking and people would absolutely freak the duck out. I think with the body of an infant, it would be very hard to speak. You could think and get a giant head start. Even plan your first words. But it'd take a couple days at least. Babies are limited by tongue size. Their tongues are too big for their mouths. To speak 4 months at the very least. Then you'd have more time to plan your first words then. That's pretty pog. This human form is limiting. Honestly, I would spend most, if my time feeling very awkward about breastfeeding and crapping my diaper. Not sure I would want to go there. Potty training should be a pretty quick process at least. Speak for yourself. Well, as an infant technically all I could do would be cry, eat and shit. Not enough motor or language skills to do anything else, no matter what memories I have. Yeah. You'd basically just be sitting there ruminating on all the embarrassing shit you did in your past life. Which is basically all I do now. But you would have to do it between shitting your pants and crying. Plus, nobody would let you get stoned to escape. Pass. What if babies can remember their past life? That's why they keep crying, shitting and mumbling weird stuff, and then you start to forget these past events as you grow up. Can you remember anything at like age 1? 4. Me neither, bro. Encourage my parents to get divorced much sooner. It's hard to imagine that conversation. Hello mother and father. We've noticed that there is obviously a lot of tension around here every day all of the time. And the two of you do not seem to like each other as human beings. So just putting it out there, have you considered not being married to each other anymore? Why is the baby talking? Just flip everyone off. Even my mom. They won't suspect a thing and it'll come off as cute. Feel like an idiot for not remembering any huge lottery winning numbers. But you remember that Bitcoin exists. Same. I'd be too young for any cryptocurrency or devices. Edit read the replies. Thanks. I've been preparing for this scenario a long time. Me too. It's fascinating. So what you do in your free time? It's kinda complicated. What do you know about time travel? Is always my pickup line. Just the basics. I haven't done it in years. And I never really got my license. But that's how I ended up in this forgotten dump of a century. What about you? Interestingly enough, this is the idea behind one of the characters in Jonathan Hickman's X-Men series currently. Moira McTaggart has the mutant ability of reincarnation when she dies. But she is born into the same life with the same parents and time frame, but with all of the knowledge of her past lives. It's very interesting. Probably my favorite comic book run in a long time. Sounds a lot like the first 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North. Basically the exact same premise, without the mutant part. I'd imagine this definitely is a major influence. I believe one of the arc titles was The Many Lives of Moira X, which seems to definitely point that way. Invest money, so I can do fun stuff from age 30. Do better in school. Make sure I still meet my wife. Oh, that's stress. Meeting your wife. That'd be tough. I think meeting my wife would be easy. I know where she lived and what she liked. Through window. Hey, you like thing? Not a question. You like it. Who are you? Your future husband. Turns daddy. There's a creep by my window. Get the gun. Millionaire speedrun. Apple, Google, Amazon, YouTube, Tesla, etc. Pretty sure time travel would be the most lucrative business ever. Add to the 50th person. Bitcoins would be packed of the etc. Laugal, here we come. I understood that reference. Great white buffalo. I would have a really hard time breastfeeding from my mom. Stop shitting and pissing my pants. Cause having my mom or dad clean my Johnson and ass is also pretty ducking weird. Shit, I'd have to wait 30 years to hear these election results. I would tell people not to tell Trump jokes at that press corp dinner. Yeah, but those jokes were hilarious. Figure out how to talk as soon as possible so I can warn my parents about the hip dysplasia the doctors missed in all of my baby checkups and make sure they do something about it before I start walking and my femur starts sinking into my own body, which is what actually happened. MMMO. Wow. He says his first words. Mother, go to the doctor and let him check if I have hip dysplasia. For some reason I imagined that with Stewie Griffin's voice. 10 would imagine again. Struggle to retain the memories in the context of not even knowing how to control my limbs or focus my eyes. By the time I'm one, they're all gone. Pee on my dad. That's funny because when I was born, as soon as I was released I peed everywhere on the hospital bed. The only time in life I asserted dominance, I guess. Peaked too early it seems. I will write a book about the events that will take place and I will make money on it. Or I will be put in a madhouse. Or end up in some CIA facility. Yes, from the outside. The only reasonable explanation is that you had a hand making these events happen. Or that you're a religious prophet. I'd be very close-lipped and try to make predictions that seem plausible or general to not gain suspicion. Make a few predictions in the stock market to gain influence. And slowly start making predictions about geopolitics. For example, start talking about how the rising tensions in the Middle East will eventually lead to terrorist attacks on American soil. Once the events occur, with my large amount of wealth and influence from stock market and geopolitical predictions, I could start think tanks that would direct the American public towards important issues like online privacy, foreign powers influencing the election, and the potential outcomes of social media manufacturing political drama. Eventually, I'd hope that my predictions would carry enough clout to influence Congress and prevent some awful things from happening. As soon as you change one major event, you could conceivably end up in a new timeline. If 9/11 never happens, then do President Bush and Vice President Halliburton invade Afghanistan and then Iraq? If that doesn't happen, then are Americans ready for Obama? And if there's no Obama, then does the right mobilize into the Tea Party and then Trump? You would have to keep things in a very macro level, in which case your influence may or may not matter as much. I'd save my mom from cancer, or at least tell her when she roughly would get it. They didn't catch it until stage 4, and it was too late. I'd use all the money I got from investing and sports bets to treat her and buy her a house. Hopefully make her a grandma. She would have been the best grandma. I fantasize about this scenario often, and after many iteration I came to a point where I was debating if the ungodly amount of money fame I can earn is worth all the shit I have to go through again in life. Earning money won't be an issue, but as a baby it's probably going to be difficult to fully flex your information immediately. And even if you convince your parents to do so and get rich, you have to wonder if it would actually make things worse than how it was in your first life. Money does not guarantee a better family, and if your family was already not the best growing up, then I'd assume your priority would be to make your family better, and that isn't as easy as investing in Apple at the right time. Changing people is going to be hard. You might even make things worse. And if you were unfortunate enough to have a really evil person in your family, then I don't know if you would even want to interact with them again. You could change a lot for the better with the information you have. But now you're living life wondering if you have prevented that event that happened in your first life. And also wondering if the changes you've made will lead to some unfortunate events. Imagine a scenario if a loved one who was alive in your first life but dies in your second life due to the change in reality that you caused. That would haunt you till your second life ends. This scenario is ripe for being a monkey's pay type wish. Of course the whole thing changes if you had infinite chances at redoing your life. But if it was only the one go, it might not be as easy going as it seems. Imagine a scenario if a loved one who was alive in your first life but dies in your second life due to the change in reality that you caused. That would haunt you till your second life ends. It's worse than that. If you've got kids, then they are almost definitely not going to be reborn the second time around. There aren't any therapy sessions for people who have lost their children to time travel shenanigans. You can get remarried to the same person, but do you tell them about the children that you had together in the other life? Do you tell your new children about their temporarily lost siblings? Maybe you can get married to someone new from far away from your hometown, and then you can share your grief of your lost children and just hope they don't talk to anyone, and find out that nobody else in your life remembers your children or previous spouse, and that there's no record of any of it happening. There actually are therapy sessions for that essentially. Some coma and trauma can live full years or decades while unconscious. There's even reported cases of people living years while knocked out from just a car accident. Imagine waking up right now to find out you were in a car accident on the way to your senior high school class. All your college and work experiences were fake. Your wife and kids don't exist. You're still 17. This has happened to people. No one's mentioned it yet, but exercise and coordination training would probably be highest on my list. The younger you are, the quicker your body repairs and gets stronger, faster, and more agile with much less pain than you feel now after training. The only reason you didn't do it back then was self-control and the drive to do it. Yoga, gymnastics, martial arts, all can be done while you think and remember what you can. And with better hand-eye coordination comes writing and typing, which you will need for online bank transfers for empire building. I'm sure there's a point every once in a while where I'll be thinking everybody talks to me like I'm an idiot. Get my family to invest in Apple and Amazon and buy a bunch of Bitcoin. Also, become a world famous oracle by being a child who predicts 9/11 and save Harambe, but only predict 9/11. Freak out that I'd ruin the timeline and never meet my partner or have my daughter. Same honestly, it would be neat and all to make investments, do better in school, get an earlier start on my career, etc. But for all intents and purposes I'm very happy now, and all of the circumstances that lead to this may not happen with some prior knowledge of what's to come. I'd know all of these things about my girlfriend, but she'd have to learn who I'm all over again. You can't fake that bond. Would it come about as organically? I think it almost certainly wouldn't. It may ruin things, in fact, and that's if I even actually met her. Overall, this fantasy of some people's has always been more terrifying to me than thrilling. I'd see it exclusively as a second chance, as a do-over, a way to not duck up the things I've ducked up and not hurt the people I've hurt. Maybe start getting into my interests from a younger age, when my brain is still working like a child's and absorbs knowledge like a sponge. Seriously, I wouldn't even try to exploit my knowledge of the future to make money or achieve world domination or help the Sixers get a championship by telling them whom to draft. That seems like hubris. I already have more than enough regrets to keep me occupied without needing to fly too close to the Sunday. Too long didn't read a second playthrough where you know how to avoid the newbie traps. Sit there duck and depressed. Be extremely frustrated. Also make my parents invest in Bitcoin. Edited for punctuation. Why is this my most liked comment? I'm shocked it wasn't any weird sex stuff. I would probably be born with the most shocked face a newborn could muster. But when I finally get the ability to laugh and smile, I'd be the jolliest baby. This would be the best gift ever, and I'm sure as heck not going to waste my second chance in righting my wrongs. Of course it would be a long wait until I was cognitively strong enough to process all my memories and act on them. First thing I would do when I got to school age was mingle more with my friends. Focus on sports and extracurriculars which I regret not prioritizing, and convince my parents to enroll me in violin, piano, and voice lessons. I'm going to make myself into some wonder child and finally use the talents I wasted from being too shy. Tie the umbilical cord to each of the bars of the hospital bed and fling myself like a angry bird. I'd say predict the future, then start charging people money for their predictions. It doesn't even matter if I'm wrong, as long as I predicted a couple major things right, people will flock to me. And if I get called out for being wrong, just start being more vague. so it's easier to explain. Then one day, after all the fame and fortune, when I'm really old, I'll go up to the President of America and say I don't have much time, but I need to tell you something. They're all gonna try kill you and run away. Then, I'll watch as the entire world burns, only for me to die and be reborn, thus repeating the never-ending cycle of destroying the world. Or, ick now, just make some better life choices. First 15 Lives of Harry August, a well-written book on this premise, where there is a whole community of people who realize that they keep getting reborn into the same circumstances over and over. Probably be horrified and eventually be driven mad if you had full mental faculty, but the physical condition of a newborn, here's how it would go. 1. Your vision would be terrible. Everything would be extremely blurry, literally just fuzz outside of 8 in a way, and in grayscale for the first 3 months or so. 2. Your hearing would be ducking trippy. Newborns don't have fully developed inner ear function and their ears are filled with fluid for the first few months. Everything would be muffled and distorted, with only high-pitched sounds even coming close to making any sense to you. 3. Your bones will feel all weird. They'll feel weird because, well, you'll have less bone. Babies have more cartilage than adults, it's why they're always all bendy. This will be an insane departure from your shitty calcified meat rack, and since your eyes and ears don't ducking work, you'll be able to devote plenty of attention to why your arms aren't really connected to your torso by anything but mushy baby flesh. 4. Speaking of mushy baby flesh, you won't really be able to control your body, like, at all. You'll be mostly blind and deaf, but you won't be able to control your limbs or voice or bowels. You will be in a squishy, terrible prison completely at the mercy of your environment for several straight months with no sense of your surroundings beyond smell and taste. Fun. 5. Speaking of taste, I hope you like milk. That's pretty much all you're going to eat for a while, as it will be your mom's. So enjoy being a fully developed adult consciousness sucking on your own mother's breasts. In conclusion, duck that. I'll pass.